everyone, this is Zoph. You are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required, with an awesome special guest tonight. But I want to introduce first my co-host, Jalicia at Northcliffe, who is joining me through the end of the year because Lucas, being the bad apprentice, the naughty apprentice that he is, has overextended himself and has a ton of commitments. So he's asked to step aside. And I was like, dude, I totally get it. Real life comes first, right? Number one rule in the SCA, real life comes first. So the amazing Jalicia has agreed to be my co-host. She's been on 2 episodes already, and tonight, and then one in 2 weeks, and then she'll be free again because Lucas will be back with me January 8th. Jalicia is incredible and also a dear friend, and we are blessed to have her joining us as co-host. And
Oh,
now I'm going to turn it over to her so I can go do geek girl stuff. If you have any comments or questions for our guest, please put them in the comments below the live. Take it away, Jalicia.
oh, thanks, Zoe, for that wonderful introduction. I've really enjoyed being here with you. I love being your substitute host.
You're
But
awesome.
today we have Roxelana Bramante. Roxelana joined the SCA in 1993 after having run out of other creative options. She fully immersed herself in the ANS and entered her first Kingdom ANS competition in her first year in the SCA. She started in the then Shire of Windhaven, which is Appleton, Wisconsin, which was part of the Middle Kingdom. The Shire became a barony, the kingdom became North Shield, and then eventually she moved to the Shire March of Grimfelds in the Kingdom of Callantyre in 2017. She started with beadwork, something she had been doing since childhood, and eventually she saw a picture of the silk flowers in period and got hooked on those. It's also called covent work or passementerie. Welcome, Roxlana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you. So, how did you find the SCA?
Well, when I was in high school, I read an article in 17 magazine that talked about the SCA. So I sent away for information and I did nothing with it for a few years. And then I bumped into a group when I was in college, but I was on my way to study in Turkey for a year. And so I didn't have any further contact with them until after I graduated college and was running out of artistic options and dug out my information, sent away for more, and then started going to events.
Wow.
So
I have to ask about 17 magazine because that just blows my mind that they would even have an article about the SCA. Was the tone like, go there and meet cute guys or, something like that?
no, it was kind of an introduction to Penzic War and then all the things that you can do aside from Penzic War. It was just an overview of this is what our organization is like. It sounded so neat.
Right.
So I sent away to Milpitas for some more information and got Corpora, which is really boring reading, and Queen Carol's Guide, which was just kind of a little pamphlet on how to make a tea tunic and what all the different hats mean. And
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Was about that back in the days when you had to send a SACE, a self-addressed stamped envelope?
just if you wanted the newsletter, the current newsletter, then you would send a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was your art when you got into the SCA? What were you first drawn to?
My first ANS project was a beaded headdress that had long danglies. It was all pearl on eye pins.
Oh,
What drew you to beadwork?
I had been doing beadwork since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Um, I found a little corsage, beaded flower corsage in an antique store, and I looked at it. I was like, I can make that. And I went home and I made one for my mother.
Oh, does she still have it?
I don't know. I haven't asked her.
I mean, I
She
have almost
probably
all the
does.
stuff my kids have made for me over the years. Even the stuff they bought at, remember in elementary school, your kids could buy like little presents for the family.
yeah.
You know, you give
Mhm.
them 20 bucks and let them buy what I keep them all. I keep them all.
Right.
Um, so what other t tell me more about beadwork. I know nothing about
Yeah.
beadwork. So tell our listeners, our viewers more about beadwork, please.
Well, I did a research paper on documenting beads, seed beads specifically in period. So the little ones that, you know, are everywhere. Indian, you think of American Indian beadwork, that sort of thing. Beads sewn onto cloth are easy to document.
Hmm.
They're all over, especially in Germany, especially in the 12th and 13th century. Then they move more from glass beads to pearl work. So around the 1500s, 1600s, you'll see a lot more beadwork in pearls. So done with pearls instead of glass beads.
Yeah. Why was that change? Were the pearls just becoming more easily available?
I'm not sure if it's that they were more easily available. I think production of glass beads really slacked off in that area.
Hmm.
You see them really come into production again in England. They were either making them or importing them um, in the mid 1600s. So that's when you'll see the layette baskets and the beaded gardens in caskets, the jewelry box sort of thing, and all of the flat bead work that just totally covered them. Um, and they may have been getting them from Italy at the time,
Hmm.
if they were importing them. I didn't look too far into that part because that was after 1600.
Right.
Now, do you make beads yourself or do you just buy them?
I mostly just buy them. I have tried my hand at making them, but I have a rule now. I do not play with fire.
Okay.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Sounds like there's a story there.
There really actually isn't a full-on story. There was no one thing. It was just I have to put some limits on myself, and fire is one of those I'm not gonna invest in. So if the art requires fire, then I'm not investing in it. Because when I start a new art, that's it. I get everything.
Yeah, it's good to have. So tell us about the silk flowers that you make with beads. What do those look like and how do they fit into period?
Um, well, I did a beaded garden, a miniature beaded garden, and cross-entered it under garden design and beadwork. And it 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 was absolutely consuming for me for 2 full months. That's the only thing I worked on. And in documenting it, I found these pictures of the Beschlatenhofje, which means paradise garden in Dutch.
Mm.
And they are focuses for Beguines who are not quite nuns because they didn't take vows the way that nuns did. So if your husband was going off to war, he could drop you off at the Beguinage and continue on and then pick you up on his way back. Um, but the women there did a lot of prayer and a lot of, these were focals for their prayers, and they look like gardens. But the flowers are made from silk thread, and they cut out vellum in the shape of the petals and then put a piece of wire to give it some flexibility and stiffness. And then you just wrap the vellum with the thread and then bend the petal into shape, and you can make entire gardens with thread. And I saw them and I was like, my next project is going to be those silk flowers because I know I can figure those out. I have a ability to just look at an object, especially a fiber-based object, and be able to recreate it. And that's what I did. I spent a good 2 years figuring it out. I wrote to the curator in Mechelen, where they have 5 of these shrines. And they sent me some really detailed pictures, high quality pictures. And I reproduced 3 of the flowers from the shrines. And then I convinced my mother to go to Germany and Belgium with me. And we saw about half of the existing shrines on that first trip. And then I met a guy and I got married. And then I convinced my husband to take my mother and I to Germany to go see the rest of the shrines. So, yeah, that's what
What
I
was the
did.
average size of these?
The they are almost lifelike. So
Hmm.
the shrines themselves are maybe, I think they average about 3 feet across and um, 6 inches deep. There are some that are the size of a wall. They're absolutely huge. And the littlest one was the size of a period Bible, and I got to cradle it in my arms.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Wait,
This
wait,
is so
wait, wait, hold
fascinating.
on. Hold on. I just have one question. If somebody wants to Google this so they can see what you're talking about, what terms would they use?
Um, Paradise Garden, Passamente,
Okay.
um, Beschlagenhofja.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Jalicia.
Okay, yeah, this is really fascinating. I was really interested to hear you say that you reached out to the museum, and I think a lot of us who do research are kind of wary or scared to do that. Like, what am I going to say? I'm this SCA person. They're going to think I'm nuts. I don't have a degree. I'm not with a university. So, how did you approach them to let you know that you were a serious person? I would think, on the other hand, that they would be thrilled that anyone, is interested. But how did you work that so that they knew that you were serious about this and they would take your request seriously?
I we were sitting at one of the museums, and I said, I want to know where the other one is." And they have 2 shrines, and they are both um wall size. I mean, they're absolutely huge. And I was like, it doesn't look like the one in the picture. Look, see, this one's got, blue paint on it. And my mother bumped into someone in the bathroom who turned out to be a curator and said, "Where's the other shrine? The one, because neither one of these look like the one in the picture." And showed her the picture, and the curator came out and said, "How did you even hear about this?" Because it's a tiny little museum, and she bought us lunch and gave me three books on the subject. They had just restored it. And so the picture I had was before the restoration.
Mm,
And I had found it in some article from 1966.
Wow.
yeah.
And and I talked to her at length about the flowers and how they had gone through the restoration process and everything. And we proceeded on to the next place. And when we were going to Mechlin, the first time I just spent so much time. I spent an entire day doing nothing but photographing these shrines. But on our second trip, they were going through a restoration themselves. And so I wrote to the museum and I said, I'm in town. This is my website. And I would like to know if I could, talk to the curator. And the curator said, or she wrote back and she said, unfortunately, I'm in Sweden.
Okay.
So, but I've arranged for you to meet another curator who is there, and you will be allowed in the workroom. You absolutely cannot display or publish any of the photos you take there, but you can take photos as long as they're for personal use.
Mm,
And so I met the curator. We had a wonderful time, but I got to excuse me, I got to see the shrines all pulled apart
oh,
and see the x-rays they had done of the shrines. And, so you could see where the metal goes up, the wire goes up in between every flower. And yeah, it was, but think, I think her seeing my website
mm,
convinced her that I was absolutely serious
right.
about
Mhm.
this art. And recreating these flowers. And there was a grad student who was there at the same time. And I said, hi, we did our introductions, and she's like, oh, we know who you are. You're
Oh,
like the go-to person for these flowers on
wow.
the so, so I must have done a pretty good job of documenting them. So
So, looking at the beadwork, it obviously is also needlework, right? Like there seems to be a tie between needlework and these shrines that you're talking about and beadwork because you're still using thread and a needle to make your art. Do you also embroider, or is that a completely different bag of
oh,
cats?
no, I can embroider too. I don't, um, when I was still living in North Shield, I did a replica of one of the Krennic gowns with all the beads, the pearls everywhere. And I swore never again because I really don't like doing beadwork on material. But I did do it again more than once. And I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite either.
Yeah.
But yes, I did several brick stitch pieces because they also fall into that mid-period German. And I've done some other embroidery. Um, I just don't like it to be highly symmetrical because then to me it looks like it's done by machine.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you said that you entered your first Kingdom A&S competition your first year in the SCA, which just blows my mind. I mean, a lot of us who've been in it for years are intimidated by going into a Kingdom A&S competition. So, why did you decide? Did you have a mentor? How did that work out for you? What was the experience like?
It was an interesting experience, but I came from 4-H and I had entered in like 3 county fairs
Mm,
every year for, you know, a good 10 years. And so I had a strong background in the, present your art, get it judged, get a ribbon, be done. Um, I remember being very anxious about it because there were the 3 judges and it wasn't face to face at the time.
mm.
It was, you set your project on the table, you walked away, you came back a couple hours later and, you'd get your judging sheets and they'd tell you how you did. But they were having this really intense conversation huddled over my project, and it just made me so nervous. But I got a second and I took it to Kingdom, and it got a first or second at Kingdom. I don't
Wow,
remember, but
wow, yeah. I guess we should explain a little bit that you're talking about the days when we had regional A&S fairs. And
correct. Yes,
yeah, they were regional, and then you had to get a certain score in order to be allowed to go to Kingdom. Yeah. Now in the
exactly.
mid-realm, at least, there's not so many regionals anymore. Mostly everyone just goes to Kingdom. So
Right. And that
Okay.
was when it was all mid-realm, right?
Yes, that was before we became a principality. So we became a principality. I don't know. I think it was like around 98, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean the mid-realm used to be huge. I mean, it was Eldemir, North Shield, Callantyr were all part of the mid-realm. So
Yes.
so in order to get to Kingdom, you had to have regionals back then because
yeah,
the kingdom was so large. I mean, it's still big, but not as big as it used to be, man.
Hmm.
How did you feel about that? Speaking of that, how did it feel to see a kingdom become? What
yeah,
was that like for you?
Well, let's see. Um, that was pretty spectacular. I remember, was it Siegfried and Gwyneth were the first king and queen of North Shield. And so that's when I did my giant Krennic gown with all the beadwork, was for the Becoming a Kingdom event. A bunch of us got together and we all did Krennic gowns for that event. So I think we did a group photo and there were 5 of us in the group photo, all looking perfectly Krennic.
oh, wonderful.
Well, I want one. I really do. I can't sew. I mean I can like, tea tunics. So one day I'll have enough money to pay somebody to make me a chronic. One day. One day.
Yeah. What was that ceremony like, becoming a kingdom?
Boy, that was so long ago. I'm not even sure. It was huge. It was in a theater sort of setting. I remember that. And I remember somebody came up to me right after the ceremony and said, "That's the most period dress I think I've ever seen."
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Great. Nice. So now you spent most of your formative SCA time in the mid-realmed North Shield Principality, and now
Correct.
you live in Callantyr. Are there
Correct.
are there so you've got 3 kingdoms under your belt. Are there any differences between the three that are notable, or are they all pretty much besides the people and the traditions, but are they the same?
They are very similar. And there aren't many things that I can point and say this is different and I liked it better either, this way or that way. Um, there are subtle differences, but nothing that I can really put a finger on.
Yeah. Is the kingdom trying to get its own traditions and its own kind of flavor and personality?
Callantyr, um, Callantyr really does have its own flavor and personality.
Mhm.
Um, and North Shield, I remember going through that transition, the early Kingdom years, and they were really, I think I saw it more in the arts and sciences because they were really trying to create their own traditions and trying to take what they liked from the mid-realm system and build something that would be uniquely theirs. And
Hmm.
I think they had just come upon it, and it ended up being fairly similar to than what I moved into Callantyr. So um, that I saw how, building a whole new ANS system.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a shout out to Green Jenny. She's commented on the live with a link to your blog and how people can search for stuff. Thanks, Jen.
Right.
Really appreciate that.
Hi, Green Jenny.
You're going to turn more people on to these silk flowers.
Yeah,
Oh, I hope so.
yeah, and beading. So, what other arts have you pursued?
Well, I was one of the first um, signets for the Kingdom of North Shield.
Nice.
So I do calligraphy and illumination, um, costuming. Um, wow, basketry. I really got into basketry.
Isn't that fun?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So fun.
I had done it as a child, but never anything. And I ended up making the flight to Egypt basket.
What does
I
that
know,
look like?
right? It's it's a covered basket with a handle on top that's, about a foot long,
Hmm.
oval in shape. And I had entered, I took a class at Penzic and I made a little market basket. And I entered it in Kingdom Anus and I got like a 24 out of 30. And so the next year I made a bigger one that was like more suited to me. And I entered two baskets and I got like a 25 out of 30.
Not
And
bad.
like, I am going to ace this thing, I swear. So the next year, I entered the Flight to Egypt basket, which is the covered basket, with the handle on top, and I got a perfect score. So,
Oh,
Yay. Yeah, no, I highly recommend baskets. I'm horrible at it, but it's such a calming, beautiful process. I really, if I had to give up theater and Bardic, I would go for basket making myself. So go
yeah.
sister, go us.
Right. Now, Roxlana, it sounds like you enjoy making things, but you also enjoy the research. Can you talk about that? Because so many people they say, I just want to make something, I don't want to research it, and they have problems with that. So how do you approach your research?
I would like to start a trend where we take other people's research and we just make the thing.
Okay. So you don't enjoy the research part.
I don't mind the research part. I like digging through books and I became best friends with the interlibrary loan lady,
Mhm.
back where I started because I had requested so many books. They, got a budget increase based solely upon my usership.
Really? Oh my God.
That's what she told me. Um, but I don't take copious, electronic notes so that when I'm documenting something 10 years from now that touches on something that I know that I read somewhere, I will never be able to find it again, which makes it nearly impossible to do the footnotes. So I don't bother with the footnotes as much as I used to because, I know it. I know that if you call me on it, I can dig it out from wherever it was. But I'm not going to go through all of that for, each research paper unless it's, something that I'm going to be using again and again.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think I think the judges have been putting a lot more stress on the documentation than really needs to be there.
Mm.
You know, I can show you a picture of this thing that I took in the museum, and they have fully documented it. How much more do you need me to
Yeah.
say about it?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
you only have one source.
right. Here's my source. Here's what the curator at the museum says about it. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So,
I want to get into the elephant in the room.
okay.
You are a week and a day away from being elevated to the Order of the Laurel.
I
Congratulations.
am. Thank you.
So, tell me about your path to getting recognized as a peer. Did you have a laurel that you were apprenticed to, or did you do it alone? Let's start there.
I did have a Laurel I was apprenticed to a long, long time ago. And then she effectively walked away from the SCA for an extended period of time, and I don't think she's quite come back yet. Then I found a surrogate Laurel who was absolutely wonderful, but couldn't really be my Laurel because I already had a Laurel. And so I became his protege. And so he was my surrogate Laurel. And then I moved and I found another one who actually I think she found me. But yeah, so I've had a few. Um, I think because my art was very focused in beadwork, especially three-dimensional beadwork, the rest of the Laurels never quite believed that I had enough documentation to prove its periodness. And I think that's kind of what held me back.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Um,
going to ask that if you felt like doing something so specialized made it harder for you to get over the goal line, so to speak.
I think they looked at a lot of my earliest work was, much more experimental. Um, a lot more of the creative anachronist than, historically documented. Um, and I think that's kind of what held me back. And so anybody who was going to take me seriously looked at it and pushed it aside. And it wasn't until I got into a whole new kingdom and whole new group of people looking at it saying, wow, you know, um, but by that time I was in the silk flowers, which were impossible to deny their periodness.
Hmm. Because you had been to the museum and seen them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I had documented all the shrines, wrote my own little book, which I entered as a research paper. And I think it was like 56 pages long or something.
Mhm.
Very in depth and very this is this is not only the art, these are the people who were creating the art. This is the materials that they were using and the culture that was around the silk industry at the time. And so I hyper focused on that one thing. So,
Yeah.
So
and then I made my own shrine.
when were you put on vigil? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah.
Um, I entered Kingdom ANS because I was last year's Kingdom ANS champion. And I figured if I had to go all the way up to, where was that? Nebraska, I think. If I had to go all the way up there to give this stuff back, I'll, enter another time. And it did not go well at all.
What happened?
What happened? Uh-oh.
We're being needlessly nitpicky.
Oh,
But you know, it's all water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. I've entered so many times. I came in second like 3 times before I actually won. And so this time I oh, John was excellent. He had perfect projects. Um and he won this year and had won the year prior to my winning. So I said, I'll just enter again next year. We'll go back and forth. Um, but they called me into court to return the regalia, and then they put me on vigil.
Wow.
were you truly surprised, or had you gotten clues that something was up?
I I kind of suspected that, any year now it's gonna happen. But but yeah, I was a little surprised by the timing. It just kind of woo came out of the blue.
So, if you had advice for anybody who is on the path, who would like to be a Laurel or a Pelican or a Knight or a MOD or a oh no, what's the name of the new peerage? Why can't I remember?
I don't, the mark,
Right, the Order of
order
the
of the
Mark.
mark. Yeah.
So somebody who's aspiring, we're just gonna somebody who's aspiring for peerage, what would your advice be to them?
Be nice to everyone you meet. Try not to snap at anybody for, petty little things. Just be a nice person and and focus on what you love to do because you can listen to the naysayers who say, "Oh, you'll never get anywhere with that." But you never know. You can dig into something and just find the thing that gives you joy, and then it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
Right,
It doesn't matter if you make it, over the Laurel Hill or the Pelican Hill, whatever, because you're doing what you love to do. And as long as, you have your joy, you will spread that joy to others and they'll see it. The powers who be will see you spreading that joy and want you to come join their little inner circle.
right, right.
That's how I look at it.
So, what have you been doing to prepare for your elevation in a week, besides taking a 15-day cruise?
I know that was pre-planned. And yeah, we've hit a couple of um sidetracks in the 3-month period that I was originally given, um, which was then what I think shortened to a 2-month time period. Um, I started making 2 dresses. I had to abandon one, and the other I finished the skirt and prepped the bodice to bring with me on the cruise. I finished it at 2 o'clock this afternoon in enough time to put it in my luggage so it can get taken to the plane tomorrow. So my bodice is done.
Ah, what does your dress look like? What type of dress is it?
It is 1550 Italian.
Ooh, all right.
Nice. Nice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So what's your ceremony going to be like for those of us who can't be there? I mean, we all wish we could be there. We'll be there with you in spirit, but what's it going to be like?
I have no idea.
You haven't planned like the speakers or I don't know what's the tradition in your kingdom? How does this usually go?
I don't know how it normally goes, but they created this super secret Facebook group to plan my visual and ceremony, and they're gonna take care of everything. So
Okay.
I
Nice.
all I told them was I want my scroll to be white vine because I've always wanted a white vine scroll. And I asked the super secret group, so weird to say that, if they could organize my speakers for me. And I just told them what I was wearing, and they're going to take care of everything.
All right. All right.
Nice. Oh, I'm so excited for you. I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you. That's just great. All right, we are running out of time. So first, we're going to have Jelicia's new question that I love so much. Can you ask that?
Oh, I have to remember it. Okay. If you could go back in time, within our period and observe something, what would it be? The rule is that you cannot change anything or talk to anybody. Well, maybe like the person standing next to you, but you can't like go up and talk to the king or anything, and you can't change anything. And you're only going to stay for maybe like an hour, and then the machine's going to, jerk you back to your own time. So, under those parameters, where would you go? What would you do?
I would probably go to the beguinage in Burge. It's huge. It used to house like 1,500 women. And just walk around and see what they're doing.
So what is the Beguinus in Burge? What is this?
This is a community. There's apparently a whole book which I have not, had time to sit down and read, called City of Women. And these these women who had joined the Beguines, which are one step below Catholic nuns, um, would live in these cities, and they would will their property to, their female relatives, and um, but it was open during the day and you could walk in and out, and at night they closed the gates, and the women were safe in their own little communities. I'd really like to see how they worked.
Wow, what country was this in?
This was in the Low Countries, so mostly Belgium, the Netherlands. I think they were mostly in Belgium and northeast France.
Wow.
Mm,
All right, everybody, look for that book. We'll have a book club discussion in a
yes.
couple months.
City
That
of Women
sounds
or
really
the City of
cool.
Ladies.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, is there any other questions that you have, Jalicia?
No, this is really fascinating. Thank you so
This
much.
was wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So, what can the SCA do better?
I honestly don't know.
No.
I really don't, because I think they do a fairly good job of making everyone feel included, and they've dealt with the problem people in a fairly effective manner. Um, I think they're doing pretty good as it is.
Great.
Okay. Thank you so much for being our guest tonight. And
Thank you for having me.
thank you for taking time out of your cruise, your last night on your cruise to spend this time with us. We're really, really appreciative. And best of luck at your elevation.
Yes,
And
congratulations.
we're
Thank
so
you.
happy for you. And thank you for teaching us about your art. It's
Yes.
really cool. And I've gotten some things. Maybe I'll look into the silk flowers thing. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You have been watching Simply Scadian, no title required. We have been talking with Roxelana Bramante, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a special awesome guest that I don't know who it is yet, and I'll let y'all know.
But they'll be awesome.
They'll be awesome. All
Yes.
right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.